Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
There, that's better. We're few but mighty. I know nobody wants to come out in this weather. It's cool at home, and it's nice to sit in front of your computer or your TV, watch us on YouTube. So thank you, those of you who are here tonight. We're happy to have you. As always, thank you, Ostrock, accompanied as always by Phil Carey in the beautiful state of Washington. The mailing has gone out for High Holy Days. I know I received mine today, so watch for it in the mail. As you know, we're always in need of funds. If you've been to Temple since we've reopened, you've seen how absolutely gorgeous our remodeled social hall is. In addition to needing funds for our upkeep and our operating costs, of course, we're trying to beautify and keep modern our temple. We've done the social hall. We converted the library to the May Salinger meeting room, which is also beautiful. And some of you may be wondering what happened to the patio project. What happened is COVID shut down the county offices, put them on limited hours. So we finally gotten our permits, but then we're running into High Holy Days. So work on the patio and the Rosecrans stairs will start in October, followed by painting, followed by the new doors, the new security doors. So by the time Iron Chef Lotka comes around on December 4th, right, Leslie? Everything should be done, so it'll be a double for everybody. Come to Iron Chef Lotka and come admire the building. Hopefully by then we'll be fully open. We're getting ready for High Holy Days. Other than that, we have our usual schedule of meetings. So if you're on a committee, please come. If you're not on a committee, you should be on a committee. This temple runs on volunteers, and we need all the help and all the good ideas that we can get. And with that, I wish you Shabbat Shalom and a good week.
We were still getting a few things together there, but TV time is TV time and doesn't recognize Jewish Standard Time. Shabbat Shalom, everyone,
Shabbat Shalom.
and welcome. It is a pleasure to have you all with us this evening. We gather on Shabbat, and I realize I need one more device. Can't make things happen if we don't have all of our devices. There we go. Much better. As we gather on this Shabbat, we have a Shabbat announcements. Shabbat greetings, rather, not announcements. Thank you, Dina, for leading us in our announcements. But Jeff and Wilma Shear have contributed to our Shabbat greetings this evening. Thank you, Jeff and Wilma, for your continued support, and I wish to acknowledge that Jeff is a past president of our congregation and a member of our current board as well. And so we are able to have, there we go, Jeff and Wilma Shear and the Shabbat greetings. I know this is kind of crazy. We seem to be taking a couple steps ahead with our pandemic. We seem to be taking multiple steps back as this Delta variant rages through LA County. The number of cases has tripled just within the last week. So I am grateful to see all of you with masks. We will continue to wear our masks indoors and follow the Department of Health guidelines. In addition, we will conclude our service with Motzi and Kiddush on the Bima. That way, when you exit the sanctuary into the social hall, you'll be able to pick up your glass of juice or wine and your piece of challah. We will not cluster around singing blessings in our present health configurations until such time as we are able to do so safely. So I thank you for your indulgence as we continue to follow the health department guidelines. For those of you at home, of course, that means Kiddush and candles. No, candles will be happening at the beginning of the service, but Kiddush and Motzi will be at the end of the service for those of you who are joining us on our YouTube channel. We begin our service in our prayer books on page 6. Text will also be up on the projected slide behind me. I know in my position I kind of block some of the slide, so that's why I will also be referring to page numbers. For our viewing audience, you will see the text we are sharing in the bottom corner of your screen. We enter this sanctuary to welcome Shabbat, and within these walls we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wandering, the sanctuary has endured as a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in our turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayers. We continue on page 24 with the words of Shalom Aleichem, our opportunity to acknowledge all of God's messengers, the physical, the spiritual, memories, melodies, all that has traveled with us during this past week. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon. Mi Malach, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malach, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Mi Malach, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Malach, Malachei Hamlachim, HaKadosh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon. Mi Malach.
We'll come over this way. Yeah. All right.
Okay. As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, So may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us, as their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light. So may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light.
אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר של שבת, שבת.
We continue on page 27. Teach me, O God, a blessing, a prayer on the mystery of a withered leaf, on ripened fruit so fair, on the freedom to see, to sense, to breathe, to know, to hope, to despair. Teach my lips a blessing, a hymn of praise as each morning and night you renew your days, lest my day be today like as the one before, lest routine set my ways. Our service continues on page 146. Yeah, I know. Skipping ahead a few pages. Favorite words of my grandfather during the Passover Seder. We'll skip ahead a few pages. Page 146 with the words of our Baruch Hu. I invite us to rise as we are able for our call to worship.
Adonai HaMevorach, Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam ha'ed. Lai 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 lai.
Seem to be having our own internal technical difficulties. We continue on page 147. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher bidvaro ma'ariv aravim, b'chochma poteach she'arim, uvidvana meshane yitim, umachalif et hazmanim, umsader et hakochavim, b'mishmerotehem barakia kirtzono, borei yom v'layla, golel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, uma'avir yom umevi layla, umavdil ben yom uvein layla, Adonai tzvaot shomo. El Chai V'Kayam, Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Hama'ariv Aravim.
And our next prayer, the Prayer of Ahava, this particular version written by Anselm Rothschild of blessed memory, he wrote this with the text on Hebrew, Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael Amcha Ahavta. Then he also decided, well, all the world should sing to you. So he then says, all the world sings to you. And then later on, he adds, Tout le monde chante de toi in French. And even though it's not here, I also added, Todo el mundo canta a ti. All the world sings to you in Spanish. So we get in our own languages, however we want to say it, even if it comes from our hearts and can't be written down. We say, Ahavat Olam, the world sings to you. Ahavat Olam, Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta. Ahavat Olam, Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Amcha Ahavta. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. All the world sings to you, the world sings to you. The song of the trees when wind stirs the leaves. The song of the earth when rain loses thirst. The song of the sea when waves are set free. The song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Tout le monde chante de toi, le monde chante de toi. Tout le monde chante de toi, le monde chante de toi. Tout le monde chante de toi, le monde chante de toi. Tout le monde chante de toi, le monde chante de toi. The song of the trees when wind stirs the leaves. The song of the earth when rain loses its thirst. The song of the sea when waves are set free. The song of the sky when hummingbirds fly. Todo el mundo, todo el mundo, todo el mundo, todo el mundo canta a ti. Todo el mundo, todo el mundo, todo el mundo canta a ti. All the world sings. All the world sings, all the world sings, all the world sings to you.
Wow. Our service continues on page 148. In each age, we receive and transmit Torah. At each moment, we are addressed by the world. In each age, we are challenged by our ancient teaching, and at each moment, we stand face to face with the truth. Baruch atah Adonai, ohev amo Yisrael. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. We continue on page 149 with the words of our Shema.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malechuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. שמע ישראל אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד.
We may be seated.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך. והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך. ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ושוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
All right, we got one part fixed. We continue on page 151. We worship the power that unites the universe, a promise of harmony for all. Yet that oneness eludes our grasp, as imperfection and evil abound. Before our eyes there is a vision of perfection, order, and goodness. There is evil enough to break the heart, yet there is good enough to exalt the soul. When will redemption from that evil come? When we grant to everyone what we claim for ourselves. Long ago, we escaped the tyranny of Egypt. Our people saw the power of the Most High. We learned God's presence redeems time and event, and so we celebrate this power that makes for freedom.
Bahelim Adonai, la 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 la. Kamocha netar b'kodesh, la 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. Nora tehilot osef beleh. Nora tehilot osef beleh. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. בוקי הים לפני משה ומרים סיידי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. La 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 la.
Our service continues on page 153. Oh, come on. We were doing so good. I don't know why we are having such technical issues tonight. It's taken me back to a year ago when we first started streaming everything online and had all of our technical issues. On page 153. Give us a place to rest, O God. Shelter us in the long, soft evening shadows of your truth. You are true protection and safety. And in your presence we find love and acceptance. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom aleinu, v'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם בששת ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש וביום השביעי שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
Prayer can be such a difficult language. We have been skewed by television, by movies, throughout the ages of presenting us with an image of prayer that is intended to be like a vending machine. You say the right prayer, you receive the right result. But prayer is much more complex than that. If all it took was prayer, we surely would have prayed ourselves into the world of our dreams generations ago. Prayer is part of the dialogue, part of the happening. We express our fears, our concerns, our hopes in the words of our prayers. But at the same time, the Hebrew word for prayer, lehitpalel, also challenges us to measure ourselves against the words that we are sharing. We pray to God for health, and then are challenged by those prayers. What are we doing to protect and enhance our health? We pray to God for peace, and at the same time we challenge ourselves with those words with how are we bringing peace to the world? Prayer is part of the conversation. The other part of that conversation is what we do with those words. To bring us into this time of prayer, which connects us to our ancestors, Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebekah, Jacob, Rachel and Leah, who lived over 4,000 years ago. Prayers that challenge us to understand how God works in the world or does not work in the world, how God might work through us in the world. Prayers that challenge us to always strive for holiness, for doing compassionate deeds. To bring us into this time of prayer, our cantor will repeat words that you find on page 155, a melody that will repeat itself. When you feel ready, rise as you are able, and we will continue with our tefillah, the prayer section of our worship service.
Avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם למען שמו באהבה מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן ברוך אתה אדוני מגן אברהם בעזרת שרה אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני מחיי הכל אתה רב להושיע מוריד הטל מחלקי חיים בחסד מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים סומך נופלים ורופא חולים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומידו מלך, מלך ממית ומחיה, ומצמיח ישועה, ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש בשמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Amen. We may be seated. Our service continues on page 160. May these hours of rest and renewal open our hearts to joy and our minds to truth. May all who struggle find rest on this day. May all who suffer find solace. May all who hurt find healing on this day, and may all who despair find purpose. May all who hunger find fulfillment on this day, and may this day fulfill its promise. Baruch atah Adonai, mekadesh ha-Shabbat.
Adonai Eloheinu, be'amecha Yisrael, u'tefilatan be'ahava tekabel, תמיד עבודת ישראל. ישראל עמך, אל קרוב לכל ורעב, פני אל עבדיך וכוננו. ברוך רוחך עלינו, ותשנא עינינו בשובך לציון. ברחמים ברוך אתה המחזיר שכינתו
For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. Oh, I'm sorry, our service continues on page 163. For the good in us, which calls us to a better life, we give thanks. For the strength to improve the world with our hearts and our hands, we offer praise. For the desire in us which leads us to work for peace, we are grateful. For life and nature, harmony and beauty, for the hope of tomorrow, all praise to the source of being. For all these things, O Sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and our Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai. Your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving. We continue on page 164. Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations. May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes. Strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all the inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamvarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Israel Amecha, Al Israel Amecha, Tasim Leolam, Shalom Ra, Al Israel Amecha, Tasim Leolam, Ki Melech Adon lechol hashalom Yatau Melech Adon lechol hashalom Shalom Yisrael Amecha Al Yisrael Amechatas Leolam Shalom Ra Yisrael Amechatas Tasim Leolam Vetov Levarech et Amcha Yisrael Bechol edu vechol sha'ah bishlomecha Shalom Ra Yisrael Amecha Yisrael Amecha Tasim Leolam Shalom Ra Yisrael Amecha Tasim Leolam Baruch atah Adonai Amevarech et amo Yisrael Amvarech et amo Yisrael B'shalom Shalom Ra Yisrael Amecha Yisrael Amechatas Leolam Shalom Ra Yisrael Amecha Tasim Leolam
we extend our prayers for peace to all whose sense of peace, shalom, wholeness and contentment have been disturbed, even shattered by the challenges that they are facing to their health, their bodies, their minds. The Cantor will lead us in our Misha Berach, our prayer for hope and healing. The words will be on the screen behind me. There will also be a slide indicating to please share aloud the name of a loved one, thus we might bring them into this space and into our hearts at this time. May all who are facing challenges to their health and their well-being be blessed on their journey, a journey that will bring them to a refuah shlema, a return to the wholeness that they seek, the shalom that they desire. Baruch atah Adonai Rofei HaCholim. We praise you, O God, who helps us bring hope and healing to those who are in need. And let us say, Amen.
Berach Avotenu ve'imotenu Avraham veSarah Moshe Aharon uMiriam uYevarech v'yirapeh et hacholim. Heal them with blessing, with strength and spirit, with laughter and life, with courage and grace. Akadosh Baruch Hu, restore them like streams in the desert. Heal them with body and spirit. Strengthen them with patience and guard them with compassion. Renew their vision and bless them with peace. Irfuat hanesh urafat aguf v'nomar Amen.
Wonderful, Cantor. Thank you so very, very much, as always, for the music. Dr. Ray, as well, thank you for being here. I neglected to announce at the beginning of our service that the Irwin family have a special thing taking place later. I learned that Ray's daughter has gotten engaged, and there will be a wedding towards the end of this month. On the 19th. But the wedding will take place in New York.
That's the first wedding. The second wedding will be at the Jardin des Tuileries.
Yeah, of course, as every wedding should be. The second wedding will take place in France, somewhere in Paris.
Paris.
She'll be in Paris, he'll be in London.
That's the secret to marriage these days. The bride is in one city and the groom is in another, huh? Well, nonetheless, we wish you mazel tov. Congratulations to you, Cecilia, and to all of your family. And what a wonderful occasion. We are going to try something we haven't done for a while. Let's see if everything is going to work here. Maybe. Let's give this a try, shall we? We can't, had to do a new melody. Harry will be very happy. Harry would be very happy. Spanning the globe to bring you the constant variety of news. The thrill of victory, the agony of defeat, the human drama of everyday life. This is News for Jews. And everyone else too. Thank you. It flows so much better with the other melody, but when we don't have copyright for said music and we're streaming to YouTube, we can't play it. News for Jews, our top story tonight: the first commercial direct flight from Israel will land in Morocco. That's right, 2 Israeli airlines have started a beautiful friendship. A beautiful friendship with Morocco. Get it? Get it?
Yeah.
Israel Air and El Al flights from Tel Aviv landed in Marrakesh on Sunday. The debut flights to Morocco are an outcome of the normalization agreements between Israel and the 4 Arab states. Israelis, many of Moroccan descent, have routinely traveled to Morocco since the relaxation of restrictions in the 90s, but they always had to travel via third country. So now they're able to go, take off from Tel Aviv, and land. Pinchas Moyle, who arrived on the Israel Air flight, descended wearing a mask and carrying a bag in the Moroccan colors and said, "I'm originally from Marrakesh." He said, "I've come back here about 30 times, but this time the trip has special flavor. It's as if it was for the first time." So there we go. Some normalization in the world around us. Meanwhile, Nigeria has freed 3 Jewish filmmakers who had been held for weeks in horrendous conditions. These filmmakers were detained by Nigerian security. They were there filming about the Igbo people in Nigeria, many of whom claim Jewish descent. And so they were part of a documentary about far-flung African Jewish communities. The 3 were released. They ended up bringing a Torah scroll to the Jewish community. Unfortunately, some of the activists who are seeking independence and separation from Nigeria are of the Igbo people, and some of them are indeed Jewish. However, the filmmakers were not there to film the separatists or the independent seekers. They were there to record the Jewish communities. So there are 2 wonderful stories. By the way, anybody know anybody hear any of those? Anybody already know those stories? Oh, okay. Some of you are keeping up with things. A next story: the symbol that we so identify with the Israeli flag was actually part of a Muslim flag. In the ancient Middle East, if you were to figure that only Israel is the only country that had this, nope. The Turkish province of Karaman had this particular flag during the Karmanid dynasty, ruling around the 13th until the late 15th century. The hexagram, while now primarily associated with Judaism and Israel, started off as a decorative sign beloved by other traditions. As far as anyone knows, it originated with King Solomon's signet ring, although we call it the Shield of David, the Magen David. It seems to have originated with David's son, Solomon. The seal and the signet ring was part of Solomon's prayer, wherein he asked God for wisdom to rule the people. And in the mystical tradition, that wisdom included the ability to talk to the animals, as well as the demons. So long before Dr. Dolittle, there was King Solomon, who was talking to the animals. It appeared together with a crescent moon on a Roman coin minted about the time of the 1st century, and throughout the Ottoman Empire times as well, that symbol, the 6-pointed star. Now, of course, it is identified with the modern state of Israel and with Jews and Judaism. Sadly, last week here in the United States, there was a swastika found on a State Department elevator. Both President Joe Biden and Secretary of State Antony Blinken condemned the acts. They both tweeted statements condemning this anti-Semitism. We're all familiar with the increase in anti-Semitism that has been taking place here in the United States over the past several years. We're hopeful that this will hopefully come to an end. Meanwhile, in a positive approach to try to remind everybody to get vaccinated in New York City, Mayor de Blasio has announced that if you plan to be fully vaccinated by Rosh Hashanah, you need to get your first shot by Monday. This is an attempt to reach out to the city, to New York City, to encourage more vaccinations. Although Jews are in a religious group, as a religious group, are more active in seeking vaccinations, the Orthodox community is less so. And so, hopeful to avoid outbreaks within the Orthodox community, Mayor de Blasio is encouraging everybody to get vaccinated Monday so you can be fully vaccinated by Rosh Hashanah. And this from the archives. An interesting story how a Protestant New Yorker smuggled Marc Chagall and Hannah Arendt out of Nazi France. In 1994, a man whose later years were spent as a high school Latin teacher was recognized by Yad Vashem as a righteous among the nations. In 1935, it turns out Mr. Varian Fry traveled to Berlin to report on the German government's banning of all non-Aryans from military service and the criminalization of homosexuality. He saw Jews beaten in the streets with no interference from the police. He heard chants of the best Jew is a dead Jew. He proceeded to spend the war years ingeniously smuggling more than 1,000 Jews out of Nazi-occupied France, including Marc Chagall, Hannah Arendt, Marcel Duchamp, and Claude Lévi-Strauss, at great risk to himself. After filing one of the earliest reports of Nazi cruelty in American news media, Fry co-founded the Emergency Rescue Committee in opposition to the United States Immigration Act of 1924, which drastically limited the number of immigrants who could come into the States. He would fly to Marseille in August of 1940 and embarked on a 13-month covert mission to help rescue the persecuted and help them flee France. With surreptitious help from the U.S. Consulate's Vice Consul, Hiram Bingham IV, Fry provided exit visas, both authorized and fraudulent, as well as other forms of aid to more than 4,000 people. Unfortunately, when Fry returned to the U.S., he was not met with much praise. Indeed, many who risked their lives to save Jews during the Nazi years found themselves disbarred, unemployed, ostracized by the various governments for whom they worked. Fry, who was the State Department had disapproved of Fry's action, and he did not receive any honor or recognition until 1994. He's known as the American Schindler. He died at the age of 59 in 1967, shortly after the French government provided him with a special honor. Now, this one has just got to get you, because only in New York City could you find a gefilte-teria. You've heard of a cafeteria. This is a gefilte-teria serving various mixtures of gefilte fish. Well, the purveyor of said gefilte-teria is out to try to promote vegan food. Jeffrey Yaskowitz, who is a blogger, and again, the inspiration behind the gefilte-teria is out to do his best. He's recently started Papaya, an online food delivery platform offering fully plant-based meals from top chefs at vegan and non-vegan restaurants. He's collaborating with New York City restaurants, and these vegan meals will be prepared by different chefs and will be delivered right to your door, although not here in La Mirada or Southern California. And so the first meal is going to come with a hummus plate, Asian sesame eggplant, and a cabbage cake filled with fricke, an ancient grain. Doesn't that sound yummy? We have to turn to sports. Sports are coming back, and there's lots of wonderful sports stories for us. The Miami Marlins Jewish relief pitcher Richard Bleer throws a scoreless inning on Jewish Heritage Day. This was something the Miami Marlins had started quite some time ago. And here he was pitching. He comes in at the 7th inning, and in front of 12,765 fans at the Lone Depot Park in Miami, he pitched a scoreless inning there. The Marlins went on to win the game 9-3. Today was special, and it was an honor to play on Jewish Heritage Day, he said, and to play with the Marlins, acknowledging the large Jewish community in Miami and South Florida. We have a number of gold medalist winners. In the third Olympics outing, Australian Jewish paddler Jessica Fox wins a gold in the canoe slalom. Did you know that there was such a thing as a canoe slalom? Well, Jessica Fox, it turns out, is no stranger to this. Her parents likewise had been in the Olympics. Richard Fox, her father, paddled for Britain, and her mother, Miriam Jerusalmi, won bronze in the France 1996 Olympics. And so she comes from Olympic stock, and she won a gold medal in the canoe slalom, which used to be men only. So this is the first time a woman has won any medal in the canoe slalom, and now women will be competing, but she has set the record. And let's have some sports scores for the evening, shall we? 32-7, 51-4, and 39 are sports scores for the evening. Get it? Okay. No news would be complete without weather. By the way, how many of these stories did you not know? Okay? All right, so most of them. So there, see, I want you to know that this is what I spend my time researching, these wonderful stories that our press does not cover, so that way you can be duly informed. This is part of my obligation to make sure, especially when we do News for Jews, that we have news that's for Jews and everyone else. Weather. So in Vilnius, these are cities of Jewish importance. It's cloudy, low of 64, high of 79, as you can see here. Krakow over here, sunny, 63 and 82. Ooh, that's refreshing given our 90 degrees here. In Kaifeng, China, sunny, 70 is the low, 93 the high. Sounds very similar to us. Tel Aviv, 79 and 88, sunny. Jerusalem also sunny, 68 as the low, 88 as the high. Very comparable to here. Eilat, if you want to get warmer, if you want to complain about the heat, go to Eilat. 79 is the low, 102 will be the high tomorrow. And in La Mirada, it should be partly cloudy according to the weather app. A low of 66 this evening and a high of 88 sometime tomorrow. So there you have it, my friends. Tonight's installation of News for Jews, bringing you all the news that's fit to kvel about. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
With that, we move to the conclusion of our worship service with the words of the Adoration. The Aleinu can be found on page 282 in our prayer books. And as we turn to page 282, I invite us to rise as we are able.
בראשית שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה לא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא נאמר וחיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד.
Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, those who live on in our hearts, our memories, and in the place we call Olam Haba, the world to come. We call to mind those for whom we are observing the Shiva and Shloshim, the 7 and 30 days since their death. Mark Bornstein, the husband of Flo Bornstein. Leah Levine, the sister of Janice Dezen. And we add as well Howard Harris, the father of David Harris, grandfather of Nicholas. The Harrises are here with us and are in process of joining our congregation. So we will have a chance to greet you during our oneg, and our hearts go out to you all in the immediacy of your loss. To those names, we add the names of those whose yahrzeits have occurred during this past week. Fanny Dubin, Johanna Marks, Barbara Pozinoff, Carol E. Sherman, Harry Heinz Lewin, Judge Stanley Baloban, Emmanuel Silverman, Marlene Denon, Bohor Abraham Benvenisti, Cleveland Steve Dyson, Martha Manriquez, Gloria Garavito, Zelda Fickhandler, Rose Wallace, Nancy Goodman, Bernie Kreloff, William Long, Sissy Miller, Norman Weissel, Gert Starker, Dorothy Altman, and Max Friedman. To those names, we link the names of those for whom we are observing the Kaddish period: Robert Weber, Marvin Gilman, Elvia Amirez, Marlene Bielsma, Bernard Heber, Sam Ursus, Rosalie McKinsey, Hal Bruce Hamleben Jr., Joseph Rofe, Mildred Sane, Harold Weber, Karen Copeland, Rita Silverman, Sandra Pascas, Marlene Angel, Leslie Pascas Amador, Edith Zaro, Concha Chavez, John Young, Gerald Kotkin, Ross B. Shear, Jenna Gordon, Doug Austin, Edith Chess, Berta Ursus, Ann Phillips, and Malcolm Dipperstein. If there's a loved one whom you are remembering, I invite you to share that name at this time.
Bernard.
To those that we have named aloud, and to those that we keep named in the quiet places of our hearts and memories, we link as well the names and memories of the men and women of our armed forces who have given their lives for our liberties, those who have given their lives for our safety here at home, members of our police, our firefighters, and other first responders, the members of the Israeli Defense Forces who have given their lives for the hope of peace. We add as well the 611,000 Americans who have died from this COVID-19 pandemic, and just this past week, the 761 Americans, 32 of them children, who have died from gun violence here in our nation. Zichronam Livracha. May their memories always be for a blessing as we share together the words of our Kaddish. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon v'yomechon uv'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shemei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'olam Ulalmei Almaya, Yitbarach v'yishtabach, v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal, Shemei Dekudesha Berichu, Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei Shlama Rabba Min Shmaya, V'chayim Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. Oseh Shalom B'mromav, Hu Ya'aseh Shalom, Aleinu Ve'al Kol Yisrael, V'imru. Amen. May all of us who mourn, and all of us who are bereaved, may we find through God's eternal presence a source of strength, courage, and hope, above all a source of shalom, of peace. And let us all say, Amen.
Amen.
And we conclude this evening with the singing of Adon Olam, but with a newer melody for us, I believe.
Yes, actually, it's actually now the melody's 13 years old. I wrote it in 2009, and it's a very simple one. Once you hear the first verse, you'll be able to join the all the other verses. So it's very single.
It's a bar mitzvah year song.
Yes, it is. Adon olam Hashem Allah b'terem kol yitzias yikra ein asa b'chetzo kol azay melech mo nikra b'yacharei tikvotav levado imloch nora vehu hayah vehu והוא אחד ואין שני להנצילו להכירה בלי ראשית בלי תכלית ולא העוז המשרה והוא עדי וחי גואלי בצור חמי בעת צרה והוא ניסי ומנוסי Yom Ekra Biado Afidrupi Beishan Be'ayra Imruchi Be'ati Adonai Lo Ira.
As we prepare to depart for our social hall and our oneg, we take this moment to share the words of our Kiddush, sanctifying our Shabbat and celebrating the joy of this past week and coming to the end of the week with Shabbat, with the words of our Kiddush, which you can find on page 5 and on the screen.
I think I had a cup.
Did it not make it back? Here, have mine.
Rob, thank you. Thank you so kindly.
Have
Thank
mine.
you so much. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu Shabbat kodsho be'ahava u'vratzon inchilanu zikaron le'maseh v'reishit yom tefillah le'mikra'e kodesh ze'el yitziat Mitzrayim Kivanu v'acharta ve'otanu kidashta mikol ha'amim Shabbat kodecha be'ahava u'vratzon innachaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim, Cantor. And we'll share the motzi here, so that way when you enter the social hall, feel free to take your wine, juice, your challah, and the other goodies that are there.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz b'te'avon.
Bon appetit, everyone. Shabbat shalom, everyone. Shabbat shalom.
Nice. Allah.